An apology. I've decided last minute to change the topic of this year, so the store sheets are not. Please take them home, learn them by yourselves if you want to. But I realized the past day or two that I would prefer, if it's okay with you, to do something a little bit different due to the fact that it is Tanit Esther today, and some thoughts came up in my mind the past few days. So I decided that I'm going to give a different cheer, and I apologize that there are no store sheets for them, but hopefully it won't make much of a difference because I will explain everything as we go along. So I apologize, but it's me, it's no one else. It's my no one to blame but me. I would like to discuss a little bit the mitzvah of Kriyat Megillah, and perhaps a certain angle to take within the Megillah of the meaning of the reading of the Megillah nowadays. So let's just understand something very basic about the source and the status of the halacha of Kriyat Megillah. As we know, Kriyat Megillah was established after the Torah was given, obviously, and therefore belongs in the world of perhaps D'Rabbanan. But is that really true? Is it really a mitzvah D'Rabbanan? Is it really a rabbinical mitzvah? The Gemara Masechet Megillah teaches us the following: 48 nevi'im v'sheva nevi'ot nitnabu lehem liYisrael. We had 48 nevi'im, 7 nevi'ot. By the way, when I was teaching this once, I asked my students, who are the 7 nevi'ot? 7 prophets, the female prophets. And there was a girl in the class who said she was so excited because she had a song that she learned in school when she was in kindergarten, a song which had all the names of the nevi'ot. So no, there's no doubt. Sorry. So she she was very excited. So then I said to her, okay, what are the 48 nevi'im? That they don't have a song for. Anyway, velo pachatu velo hotiru al ma shekatuv b'Torah chutz mimikra Megillah. The Gemara tells us that the only halacha, the only rule that nevi'im added to the Torah is mikra Megillah, which hides within it a very big problem. A question, which is, we know that Nevi'im are not allowed to add mitzvot to the Torah. In fact, this, according to the Rambam, might be one of the principles of faith. It's included in Ikarei HaEmunah, in Yud Gimel Ikarim. In what way? Does anybody know what way is it included in Yud Gimel Ikarim? That the idea that a Navi is not allowed to add a mitzvah to the Torah might be a principle of faith. Because the Rambam explains that only Moshe Rabbeinu was given the Torah. Mm-hmm. And because Moshe was such a great Navi, and the Rambam understands that one of the principles of faith is to understand that Moshe stands out. There is no one else in Jewish history like Moshe. And by the way, that could be part of the reason why in Jewish history there were no people named Moshe. For hundreds and hundreds of years, if you think about it, do you know any Rav Moshe in the Mishnah? In the Mishnah? Do you know any Rav Moshe in the Gemara? Why not? Why not? Could very well be because the awe of Moshe Rabbeinu, that no one can imagine. And what makes Moshe Rabbeinu so special? It's not just because Moshe Rabbeinu was such a great guy. Because his status was Noten Torah. So if you challenge Moshe, you challenge the Torah. Only Moshe. It could be, people will say, because then maybe because of Jesus and Muhammad. It could be that's part of the idea that no one else can give us the Torah. And that's why when the Rambam writes that Moshe is so special, so unique, as Notena Torah, part of that is to understand that no other Navi is allowed to give us a mitzvah or to add a mitzvah to the Torah. By the way, how do I know this is true? Rav Meidan talked about this at some point. I heard it was beautiful. There's a Kuzari. Rabbi Levi in the Kuzari has a line that not many people notice. Because the Kuzari says, yeah, a Navi can add mitzvot. Yes, the Kuzari says this. A Navi is allowed to. And this is parallel to Rabbi Levi's understanding that every Navi could reach Moshe Rabbeinu's level. So it could very well be that that's where it comes from. But the Rambam, who really felt that no one could reach Moshe Rabbeinu's level, felt that no Navi is allowed to add a mitzvah. Anyway, this is a side issue, but for our purpose right now, it is very important because the question is, how is it possible for a Navi to add a mitzvah? And the mitzvah of Kriyat Megillah seems to come from Mordechai and Esther, comes from the Nevi'im of the Nevi'im of Beit Sheni, the last Nevi'im, which were at the beginning of Beit Sheni. And how is that possible? So it seems that the Gemara already is aware of this question, and the Gemara says, "My darush," where they get this from? Amar B'chia Bar Avin Amar Bisha B'Korcha Uma me'avdut lecherut amrinan shira mimita lechayim lekol shekain. The Gemara suggests a kal v'chomer. The Gemara says they learned it from Pesach. On Pesach, we have halacha, or maybe from Kriyat Yam Suf, that we say Hallel. Hallel was said at Kriyat Yam Suf. Now, with all due respect, the Gemara says that Ad Yashir is the basis for Hallel. The Gemara understands that with all due respect to Pesach, our lives were not in danger in Pesach. With all due respect, it was freedom. Me'avdut lecherut. We were slaves, and it's terrible to be slaves, but we weren't saved from death. Uma me'avdut lecherut. We say Hallel. Bnei Yisrael said Hallel. Mimita lechaim lo kol shekain. Kal vachomer. In a time that we were facing death, the greatest threat in Jewish history, to destroy the entire Jewish people, as it was in the days of Achashverosh, Kal Vachomer, that it would require us to say, to likro, et Hallel, to say some kind of a prayer, or in this case the Megillah. It's learned as a Kal Vachomer. It could be that the Gemara said this because the Gemara could not understand how a Navi can make up a halacha. Now, by the way, this is a huge topic, which I'm not going to right now. One could argue that a Navi has two hats. A Navi could have a hat as a Navi, he could take it off and put his hat as a Chacham, as a Rabbanan, as a Beit Din. Meaning, the fact that you're a Navi doesn't stop you from making takanot, zerot, as a Dayan, as a Rabbi. But as a Navi you're not allowed to. But as a Rabbanan you are. But I think that the Gemara here is trying to teach us that the Nevi'im did not add it on their own, but rather said this is the Deoraita level. This is the Deoraita mitzvah. Now I want to explain why this Gemara is very important. Because this mitzvah suggests that maybe Kriyat Megillah has what status? A Deoraita status. Now, by this idea, this is not really, again, when I'm talking about it goes to a lot of different places. I will say one thing that's very important. Because this idea, if we develop it more, is a very famous idea of the Khatam Sofer, which has become the basis for Yom HaAtzmaut. If anybody would ask, and I think everyone would call themselves a Zionist in this room, if someone would ask you, why do you keep Yom HaAtzmaut? Do you have any halachic basis for it? What would you answer?
We were saved from Hitler.
Mitzvah, but halachic basis. Where do you get this idea from celebrating a day? So, and I would ask another question: let me ask a different question. Is it Doraita or Derabanan to keep Yom HaAtzmaut? People look at you like you're crazy. What do you mean Doraita? The Khatam Sofer uses this idea to say that Kvi'at Chag, establishing a day of celebration for saving one's life, is a deoraita concept. The Khatam Sofer says that Purim is deoraita. Hanukkah is deoraita. This is a Khatam Sofer. Why? He says because the Kal Vachomer, Uma me'avdut lecherut, from slavery to freedom, we have this idea of Hodaya, of thanking Kadosh Baruch Hu. Mimita lechaim lo kol sheken Kal Vachomer. that Kal V'chomer is D'oraita. That says the Chatam Sofer, establishing a day of thanks when we are saved from life to death, from death to life, right? I'm already drinking. That is a Kal V'chomer, which makes this concept a D'oraita concept. Which you could argue, therefore, that the idea, the notion of reading a Megillah or doing is a D'oraita concept. Could very well be. Meaning, the idea of celebrating a day called Purim is a D'oraita idea. What we do, the rabbis told us what to do. Shlach manot, matot le'evyonim. But the concept is a D'oraita concept. Mikra Megillah, the idea of it is somehow a D'oraita idea. Yes, you had your hand up.
Because then you could apply a logic to any war since 1948, could you not?
I mean, you would have to really discuss what are the parameters of establishing a day of thanks. That is a good question. That's a different question, which I'm not going into right now. Okay, maybe for Matzmut we can talk about it, but right now, the Gemara also, by the way, suggests that Chachamim in the times of the Megillah also learned the mitzvah Michiat Amalek to serve as a source for Purim. That's my original thought, was to give a shir about Amalek today, because I think that this year more than other years it's something to think about. But I'll just mention that the idea of Michiat Amalek mideoraita, which is a mitzvah deoraita, remembering Amalek, destroying Amalek, is a very important piece in the story of Purim, and therefore one can also argue that idea of a D'oraita idea is also the basis. I just want to tell you, I know you'll enjoy this. Yesterday I got 2 phone calls from one student of mine who's a soldier, who's in the army somewhere, and he's a little bit confused about what to do on Purim, about Mishloach Manot. Okay, the other guy didn't call me, but his father did. This guy is in Jenin for the next few days. Which is interesting, by the way, side issue. If Jenin was a walled city, could be. Right? But this year it makes no difference, because Tetvav, Yudal, okay. But his question was about he has no Megillah, what should he do? So I said, listen, you have to remember that, we are just reading about Michiat Amalek. You are doing Michiat Amalek, right? Meaning, let's put it into proportion. Right? Who's actually doing the real mitzvah here? We talk about how Osek b'mitzvah p'tur mitzvah. We talk about a theoretical idea. This is not a theoretical idea. This is, and not only a mitzvah, the mitzvah that Purim is about. So really, it's like, who's doing the mitzvah better? The guy who reads the Megillah, who's the guy who's fighting? I mean, it's so simple, right? We do sometimes perspective. I said you shouldn't feel bad. We should feel bad, right? You're in a place where we anyway. So this could be the source of Purim, the D'oraita source, which really leads to some Rishonim. The Tosfot Reed, for example, argues, one of the Baalei Tosafot says, Mikra Megillah Dvar Torah. One of the Baalei Tosafot really understood that reading the Megillah is a D'oraita concept, Sharei Matzu Laremes Min Torah, like we just explained. And he really takes this literally, that this might have a D'oraita status. The Rambam uses language of mitzvat aseh midivrei sofrim, which is an interesting language because the Rambam's phrase divrei sofrim is not so clear what the Rambam means when he said divrei sofrim. Usually we associate the concept divrei sofrim with the Rabbanan, a rabbinical law. But some of you might know that in the Rambam's world, the phrase divrei sofrim is problematic, or to say the different. It's not very clear what he means. I remember in my father's library on the top shelf on the left, there's a book called. There are a few books where they came out called divrei sofrim. Rav Shechter recently put out a book called divrei sofrim. Rav Tzadok has a book called divrei sofrim. There's a few called, anyway, there's a book called Divrei Sofrim which goes into explain what does the phrase Divrei Sofrim in the Rambam mean. A whole book just about that. Because the Rambam's Divrei Sofrim is not exactly clear. It's the Rabbanan, or maybe a little bit different than the Rabbanan. What is accepted by I would say the bottom line is that most people understand. I don't know. I didn't count most, but I think the accepted understanding, or the normal understanding of what Megillah is in halachic status, is what we call Divrei Kabbalah. What's Divrei Kabbalah? Divrei Kabbalah is an expression, phrase, which means a mitzvah that is derived from the Nevi'im. I said to you before, this is a very big problem. How do you understand this, and how could it be? But we have a few mitzvot that are on a Dirabanan level, but higher than Dirabanan, because they're called Divrei Kabbalah. Anyone have a good example of a Divrei Kabbalah that we have? Mitzvot mit Divrei Kabbalah, Divrei Nevi'im? Very appropriate, because we're on a fast day today. All fast days except Yom Kippur have the status of not the Rabbanan, but Divrei Kabbalah, which is higher than the Rabbanan. Where does it say in the Navi that you have to fast on the fast days? Yafeh meod. That pasuk is in Zechariah. So when in the times of Bayit Sheni, they came to the Navi and said, we're building the Beit HaMikdash. Do we have to fast the Shabbat? And he said, one day he said these days will become a day of simcha, but until then you got to fast. So who said you got to fast? The Navi. So the fast days. By the way, Ta'anit Esther is not one of them. Right. What is that status? That's a different question. Okay, but all the other fast days are Divrei Kabbalah. I'll give you another example of Divrei Kabbalah is Onik Shabbat. It's brought down in Yeshayahu. The mitzvah of Onik Shabbat is a Divrei Kabbalah, Divrei Nevi'im. There are a few examples, there are a few cases. What is the status of Divrei Kabbalah versus Rabbanan? That's a very big question, a big machloket about this, do we say Sfeik Doraita L'Chumra to I do know, the Rabbanan Sfeik Doraita L'Kula. Doraita Sfeik Doraita L'Chumra. What about Divrei Kabbalah? Do we say Sfeik Doraita L'Chumra or Sfeik Doraita L'Kula? So these are famous questions, which I'm not going to go into. I will mention to you though a very an interesting question that does have to do with this question. It has to do with women. Why? As you know, I'm not going to go, this is not my topic, but I will mention it. As you know, there's a very well-known discussion about women's Megillah reading over Purim. I'm not going to, this again, not my topic, but the question, on a very simple level, can a woman read Megillah for a man halachically? I don't care about any other issues right now. I'm talking about, the rule is very simple. You could only be motzi someone if you and them share the same level of obligation. That's simple, halachically. Sorry? Oh, wait. So before we go to Haman, I just, that rule is a clear rule that you have to. So, for example, a woman can make kiddush for a man Friday night. Why? Because a man and woman have the same level of chiyuv. No problem. But for example, when it comes to benching, can a woman bench for a man? No, because it's not so simple what the level of chiyuv of a woman is to bench. When it comes to benching, it's a big discussion. What about Megillah? Do men and women share the same chiyuv of Megillah? So this is a well-known machloket. It might actually be a machloket Bavli Yerushalmi. And there's a famous Bahag. Everyone quotes the Bahag in this context. The Baal L'chol Dolot, one of the Geonim, brought down by Tosfot and Sechet Megillah. The Bahag seems to understand that women and men do not share the same level of chiyuv for Megillah reading. But it's unclear what the difference is. There are a lot has been discussed and written to try to understand why would there be a difference. Now, before we go into the why there would be a difference, the bottom line is, if there is a difference, then the outcome is that a woman would not be able to read Megillah for a man. By the way, the bottom line is that the Ramah seems to adopt to adopt this opinion of the Bahag, and that's why in the Ashkenazi world the psak has become quite clear that a woman should not read a Megillah for a man. But in the Shulchan Aruch, believe it or not, seems not to accept the Bahag, and therefore Rav Avodah Yosef, for example, being a Sephardi posek following Shulchan Aruch, says that if a woman reads Megillah for a man, he's Yotzei. So any of those who think that Sephardim are more chauvinist than Ashkenazim always bring down this case, right? Because this is a clear case where it's exactly the opposite. Why would there be a different level of chiyuv? Why would there be a different level of chiyuv? So like I said, there are a lot of different options to explain this. According to what we're saying right now, one explanation would be the following. What is the level of chiyuv of reading Megillah? We just said divrei Kabbalah, which is a higher level of the Rabbanan. It's not maybe the Oraita, it's not the Rabbanan, it's somewhere in the middle. Now, let's begin the process of going through the questions regarding women. Would a woman be chayiv to read the Megillah? The Nevi'im came along and said, Divrei Kabbalah, there's a mitzvah to read the Megillah on Purim. Should women be chayiv or not? At this point, women should be pater. Why should they be pater? Time-bound mitzvah. We have a rule. We have a rule in the Mishnah and Kiddushin. Women are exempt from time-bound mitzvot. Therefore, a woman would be exempt from Megillah reading. However, says the Gemara, Amar B'Shua ben Levi, Nashim chayavot b'ikra Megillah. Why? Women are obligated to read the Megillah because they were included in the miracle, which, as you know, is a machloket amongst the Rishonim. What does that mean? What does that mean that women were included in the miracle? One option is that women took, not only were they involved in the miracle, but women were involved specifically in certain miracles. Because there are 3 places in Shas where Rabbi Shua ben Levi teaches us that women are chayav in a certain mitzvah because of the miracle. What are the 3 places? Arba Kosot, Hanukkah candles, and Megillah. What do they all have in common? No, I'm saying. No, he said that about them. But what do those 3 cases have in common? That they're all the Rabbanans. They're all mitzvot the Rabbanan, if you notice. Arba Kosot, Hanukkah, and Megillah are the Rabbanan, not the Raisas, which begs the question, why doesn't Afein and B'Tunes work for the Oraita? Machoket Rishonim, I'm not going to go into it right now. But they all are involved in miracles. And if you say that women were involved in the miracle, what was the miracle of Hanukkah that women were involved in? So Tosfot says Yehudit. Remember Yehudit? Yeah. She chopped off the guy's head, the Greek guy. Remember that guy? Remember? Mm-hmm. The story of Yehudit? She chopped off the Greek's head. I think it's I think there are other ways of looking at it. I think we spoke about it here. I think I spoke about it here in Hanukkah time. Remember? Did I speak about it? About Brit Milah, that women sacrifice Brit Milah for their children, for a Hanukkah story. Anyway, obviously, when it comes to Purim, it's Esther. Esther was a leader of that led to the miracle. Alternatively, we could argue, like you just mentioned, that the gzeira, the decree of Haman, was on men as it was on women. So therefore, it makes sense that when Chachamim made a mitzvah for us to appreciate the miracle, they applied it to men and women. That's what most people understand Afein Hayu B'Oto Hanes means. So a second ago we said women are pater because of time-bound mitzvah, and now we're saying no, but they're chayiv. But on what level are they chayiv now? Now they're chayiv midrabanan. Afein Hayu B'Oto Hanes can only make a woman chayav midrabanan, and a man is chayav on what level? No. Divrei Kabbalah, Divrei Nevi'im. So the hierarchy of their chiyuvim is not equal. A man might be, according to this, chayav midivrei Kabbalah, a woman midirabanan. And how do we begin this discussion? You can only be motzi someone if you are the same level. Yeah, obviously, right, or higher. But therefore, a woman, according to this, would not be able to. Meaning, our discussion, if Mikra Megillah is Derabanan or Divrei Kabbalah could have a direct nafkamina for women. Now, why is this important? I'll explain to you where I'm getting with all this. Because the following. There's a tshuva of a Noda B'Yehuda, Rabbi Cheskel Landau. It's a great tshuva. If it didn't happen, we should just make it up because it was so cool. What happened? To when can we say Kiddush Levana?
13.
Usually to the 14th, right? Depends upon the molad. But it could happen, as it did in Prague in 1793, that the last time to say Kiddush Levana was the night of Purim. And in Prague that year, it was cloudy the whole week. And they couldn't say Kiddush Levana. So they're reading the Megillah. This is so Jewish. And in the middle of the Megillah, this Shmerel runs into the Bet Midrash and says, the clouds have moved. The Levana is out there. Let's go say Kiddush Levana. They're in the middle of the Megillah. You Shmerel, what are you doing? We're in the middle of the Megillah reading. Get out of here. So now the Noda B'Yehuda discusses halachically what takes precedence. Kiddush Levana or Megillah? The Rabbanan, Divrei Kabbalah, Tadir Shnotadir, Yafeh. He talks about Tadir Shnotadir, Tadir Kodem. He discusses this. And then he said, well, theoretically, according to what we just learned right now, what would you say? What has a higher hierarchy? I would say Mikra Megillah. Why? Because Divrei Kabbalah.
But the moon will disappear and you'll lose the mitzvah.
Okay, first of all, I'll say mitzvah patur mitzvah. You're doing a mitzvah now. You're doing a mitzvah. Oh, mitzvah, meaning you're all bringing up good things. By the way, you're all bringing up very good questions that have to do with this question. So start again. I don't know. Mitzvah that you know what I'm going to do. The Rabbanan. So he says, if we want to examine this question from what we're discussing, that Mikra Megillah is Divrei Kabbalah on a Navi level, and Kiddush Levana is a D'Rabbanan, Birchas HaShevach, then the hierarchy of Megillah is higher. But then he says, no, it's not. Why not? Because he says at night, the Megillah reading is not Divrei Kabbalah. Which, by the way, would mean, and this poskim say, that women can read Megillah at night for men. According to that. Why would we say, wait, I take no responsibility for what you do at your home. I don't care. I'm just giving you a shear. You want to, don't come to blame me when they put you in cherem, okay? I'm not getting involved. I'm just talking, I care about the halachic the halachic discussion here. Why is that true? Why would you say that the night Megillah reading is different than the day reading? So for that, we have to learn a Gemara. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah says the following: Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Remember him? He's the same guy that talked about Afen Ayubo Toanes. He's on a roll, right? He says like this: Chayav Adam likrot et Megillah balayla uleshanota bayom. That's it. I'll explain. I'll translate, even though the translation here is question what he is already interpreting what he said, which is a question. He says, Chayav Adam, a person is chayav to read the Megillah at night. Uleshanota bayom. Mazel leshanota, from what word? That's not fair. You know the Gemara. Leshanota, what would you say? If you didn't know anything, what would you say leshanota means in Hebrew? What word does it sound like? To review it. To repeat it. From what word, for example, in Chumash? V'shinamtem levanecha. To repeat it. So you have to say it at night and repeat in the daytime. Now, by the way, if that's the understanding, what is what is the real Megillah reading? What's the more important Megillah reading? The night or the day? The night, right? It would seem from the language. You have to read at night and repeat it afterwards. So it seems that the real one is the first one. The Gemara doesn't understand what he's saying. The Gemara says, the rabbis heard this. And they said, what does he mean? L'shanota? Oh, yeah. From the word Mishnah. What he meant to teach us is, you read the Megillah at night, and in the daytime, we learn Masechet Mishnah Megillah. That's what the Gemara suggests. The Gemara didn't understand what he was saying. Now, wait, why is that? How can the Gemara didn't understand what he was saying? What? They didn't read the Megillah twice?
We do.
Maybe they didn't. Some suggest, and by the way, like Rishonim suggest, that Purim maybe only at some point they read it only the daytime. I mean, think about it. Is Purim? What do we do? Purim is really is a day holiday. Mishloach manot, matnot le'evyonim. All those mitzvot are done in the daytime, not at night. So that Purim, everything is in the daytime. It says explicitly tonight. Oh, okay, you guys are special, Yerushalayim. Okay, but for me in the Gush, right? Tonight, there's no mitzvah to eat really. To do seudah in the yeshiva world, it's a really messed up thing. In the yeshiva world, everyone tonight is a big party in the yeshiva world. And I mean, growing up in the yeshiva world, guys drink tonight, which is really wrong because you're really supposed to drink. You're supposed to drink tomorrow. I know that you guys have it this year big. You're supposed to drink 3 days in a row. So that's if you're machmir, right? But you're not really supposed to drink at night because Purim doesn't really exist that night. This seems to be part of the problem that the Gemara didn't understand what's going on here. Bottom line is, says Tosfot, the Tosfot on this Gemara and Masechet and Megillah Daf Dal, it says the real Megillah reading actually is a daytime. Tosfot says the night is not real Megillah reading. The real Megillah reading is the daytime.
He's practicing.
So why do we read at night? Why do we read at night? Practicing what? What are we practicing? So before that, I want to go back to the Gemara. This is wonderful. Does someone have a sitter in front of them or with Tehillim? Is there Tehillim in there?
Yes.
Thank you. The Gemara continues and brings a source for Yehoshua ben Levi's halacha. What's the source? He says, "Shene'emar b'Tehillim Elohai ekra yomam v'lo ta'aneh v'layla v'lo dumiyali." God, I call out to you day and night. Day and night I call out to you. So you see that Kriyat HaMegillah, you hear the word Kriyat, Ekra. Kriyat HaMegillah is day and night. Wow, you really proved your point. You found a pasuk that says, I call it to God day and night. Oh, Kriyat HaMegillah is a day and night. Really? That's where you get it from? And then, to make it even more strange, the Gemara then brings Rabbi Chelbo Amar Ula Bira, says, I agree. Chayav Adam likrot HaMegillah bayom uleshanota bayom balayla. And read, I agree. But I, unlike Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, quote a different pasuk. As it says in Tehillim, Leman yizamercha chavod v'lo yudom Hashem Elokai le'olam odeka. I will always praise God. I won't. I will like not good enough once, twice. Wow, you convinced me. This pasuk. If I read this pasuk, that's what I would have thought too. Really? So, the only way to really understand this is to open Tehillim. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi quotes Tehillim Kaf Bet. Let's read Tehillim Kaf Bet a little bit and try to sense what is Tehillim Kaf Bet all about. Sorry, here we go. Lamnatseach al ayelet hashachar mizmor leDavid. Anyone know when we say this parak of Tehillim? We say it on Purim. On Purim we say it. Not this morning, on Purim. On Tanit Esther they say it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's way above my pay grade what Sephardim say. But great. Okay. Now listen to this parak. Eli, Eli, lama azavtani, rachok mishuati divrei shagati. Wow, this is really the spirit of Purim. Eli, Eli, lama azavtani. This is what we say on Purim. Elohai ekra yomam v'lo ta'aneh. I call out to you in the day and you don't answer. V'layla. That's a pasuk that he quotes. Really? It's a bit of a party spoiler, no? To mention these psukim on Purim. This is the source of Kriyat Megillah. Eilecha za'aku v'nimlatu b'cha vatchu v'lo yevo. People have trusted you, God, have cried out to you, God. Hatzileini micherev nafshi. Save me from the sword. Hoshieni mi pe'aryeh m'kaneh remim ta'anitani. I mean, it's quite not depressing, but like really, like this is the source of the Megillah. And now let's go to the other guy. The other guy here, Rabbi Bira, he says, no. That's not the source for the Megillah, reading day and night, but rather Tilim Perik Lamed. What is Tilim Perik Lamed? Mizmor Shir Changot Beit David. Aro mimcha Hashem ki dilitani velo simachta oivai li. Hashem elokecha shiva'ati elecha v'tirpe'eni. Hashem elokecha nafshi chitani me'odivo. Zamru la Hashem chasidav. Praise God. Sorry? Yeah. Praise God. Hashem, you have saved me. You have given me salvation. I praise you. I sing to you. Hafachta mispedi lemachol. You have turned my misped, my eulogy, my pain into machol, into a dance. Hashem Elokai leolam odeka. I will always thank you. Now, these two Mizmorei Tehillim, it's hard to imagine that they were written by the same person. They described completely different situations. What's going on here? Before we answer this question, I want to mention another interesting halacha that comes up in Purim. Tonight, when we read the Megillah, we're going to make a Shechianu. Correct? When we read the Megillah. Tomorrow morning, are you making a Shechianu again at the Megillah reading? Well, are you Sephardim? So Sephardim don't. Sephardim don't make a Shechianu tomorrow morning. Ashkenazim do. So, by the way, this year you guys are messed up. Yeah. That's one thing that you guys are messed up this year, because according to people, many people say that the Shechianu in the morning, the Megillah, you should have kavana for all the mitzvot in the day, which you guys don't have tomorrow.
Sunday.
So I read somewhere that people on Sunday are going to wear a brand new shirt to make a Shechianu and have kavana for the mitzvot. So all of you go get a new shirt. But sorry? Well, on Friday. Okay, so you're right. Wear 3 shirts. You're right. Because also on Shabbos, then you should also do on Shabbos Shechianu. But anyway, why do we make a Shechianu tomorrow morning again? If we made it tonight, do we make on Hanukkah every night? We make once, the first time that we do a mitzvah, we make a Shechianu. Why tomorrow do Ashkenazim make another Shechianu? The answer could be very well what we're saying right now. Tonight and tomorrow are 2 different things. It's the night. The real Purim is tomorrow morning. Purim really starts tomorrow morning. And again, Yudalad or Tetvav for you guys. Tonight is a special halacha that Rabbi Shimon Levi introduced. We read the Megillah. Why? The answer could be based upon what we just read now in the Tehillim. But one more thing before I answer this question. Why are we fasting today?
Esther fasted. She told the people to fast.
Esther, to say that it's because of Esther's fast is very difficult. Why? Because when did Purim really happen? On Pesach. Right? If you remember, and just remind your family, this year, Lila Seder, when everyone's half asleep at the end of the Seder, we read this piyutim of and everyone's half asleep. So in there you'll notice a list of events that we mention on Pesach, that Jewish events, historical events that happened on Pesach. For example, we mentioned there Chizkiyahu, the Sancheriv, the walls of the famous battle of Chizkiyahu and Sancheriv, the miracle, according to our tradition, happened the night of Pesach. We mention it. You know what else we mention? We mention Purim. because when they got together, Haman and Mordechai and Achashverosh, to make this deal to kill the Jews, so they said they made it up around an Adar, the end of Adar, or beginning of Nisan. Beginning of Nisan. Well, I'm saying they're happy towards the end, right? And then they get together. Haman makes a lottery, and the lottery comes out that in a year from now they're going to kill the Jews. So we're talking about Nisan. The lottery is done in Chodesh Nisan. And then Mordechai comes to Esther and says, "Oh my God, we're going to do," and she says, "Fast 3 days." That fast takes place when? On Pesach. On Seder night. And that's when they decide, Achashverosh changes his decision, and they say, in a year from now, when you're supposed to kill the Jews can kill their enemies. And then when it comes Pesach, Purim next year, that's when we kill our enemies and celebrate it. It's a very different kind of understanding that sometimes people think about. It happened on Pesach.
So before you go into war, you fast because you ask Hashem.
Okay. So the original fast days, 3 days of Esther, was over Pesach. So today nothing happened. No fast happened today. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit difficult to say that we're fasting. But I'll tell you the truth, it's much more difficult than that. Let's say today was the fast day, okay? Let's say it was, but hey, we won.
Why are we fasting?
Why are we fasting? It's so Jewish, right? So Jewish. Like the jokes about the rabbi. The famous story about that Reb Chaim wanted to light his Hanukkah candles. So but he didn't know what to do because he had a broom that was leaning on his Hanukkah candles, and he knew that if he takes it away, his students are going to think that there's some halacha of putting a broom by the Hanukkah candles. So he gets up and says, "I want to let everyone know there is no reason to put a broom by the candles. I'm just moving it to light my candles." He makes a bracha and lights the candles. The next night, all his students put a broom by the Chanukiah, and they say, "There is no reason to put a broom by the Chanukiah," and they move it and light the candles. That's almost like what we're doing here. We fasted. Why did we fast? Because we wanted to be saved. And we were saved. So we fast again because we fasted last year? It makes no sense. So it could be, the Mishnah Berurah quotes this, that there was an original minhag to fast at wartime. It's an interesting idea that there might have been an original idea that when people went to war, they fasted. Now the truth is, it's not good either explanation, because it seems that the poskim actually say explicitly that perhaps the bystanders should fast, but not the soldiers. Mm-hmm. There's a discussion, because the Mishnah Berurah brings, if you look at Mishnah Berurah on Tanis Esther, in the Shulchan Aruch of today, as if what we're doing today, he says that we learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu was fighting Amalek, he was fasting, it says. And from here we learn when you kill Amalek, you're supposed to fast, as if, when you fight the war. But it's not, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't fighting, with all due respect. He was standing on the mountain. The guys that were fighting down below, they probably thought, yeah, his hands were heavy, everything else, but he wasn't the fighting, he wasn't the soldiers. In fact, the poskim say, Shulchan Aruch brings down, that soldiers are not allowed to fast at war. I have a story of Rav Fisher, Rabbi in Gush, in the Yom Kippur War. He has this haunting story that he was stationed up by the Syria border in Yom Kippur War to be a chazan. Can you imagine? Of all years, to be sent to be a chazan up in the Golan Heights, 1973. And he said that he was with one tank. There was a tank there with the 4 guys, and he was stationed with them to be there, to be in that area for Yom Kippur. And he said that Erev Yom Kippur, this guy comes to him and says to him, I'm a kibbutz guy, and never in my life fasted Yom Kippur. Tell me. If you explain to me, if you convince me, I'll fast. And Rav Fisher did. Rav Fisher said he spoke with him, they sat the afternoon for Yom Kippur, had a whole long conversation, and the guy said, "You convinced me. I'm going to fast." And the guy was killed the next day. He said he was killed at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At 2 o'clock, this officer was killed. He said the 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Syrians attacked, Yom Kippur War. The tank went out. He said within half an hour, the tank came back with the guy's body on the tank. And it says it haunts him till today if he gave him the right, if it was right for him to fast. He doesn't know till today if he did the right thing, because maybe this guy would have fought better if he wouldn't have fasted. On the other hand, he died fasting. Doesn't know. So I asked him if he ever spoke to the family. He said he never spoke to the soldier's family about this. But he said it haunts him at night. 50 years later, he still is not sure if he did the right thing. Soldiers are not supposed to fast. So, is that why we're fasting today? Because of the war that took place on the 13th? Rav Soloveitchik suggests a very profound idea that he finds in the Rishonim why we fast on Tanit Esther. And this goes back to my question about the Megillah. Rav Soloveitchik explains that when Chachamim established a Jewish holiday called Purim, they established the Chag to commemorate not only the miracles, but Divrei Hatzomot V'Za'akatam, it says in the Navi, in Megillah. We commemorate the fast days and the crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Chachamim established these days not only as days of praise, but as days of kriyah, of calling out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and praying and fasting. In other words, Purim doesn't start tonight. Purim started this morning. Chachamim wanted to capture the entire event called Purim. There's no chokhmah to get up and just celebrate if you don't understand what happened before. You have to go through the events that took place in Shushan and the entire Jewish world, of the worries, the concern, the fasting, the fear, the almost of what could have happened, what might have happened. And only then, if you understand that, can you say praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. People suggest, by the way, that this is the idea behind Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom HaZikaron being together. Many people question, how can you do this to us? It says, Mamash, it's so unfair. You're taking us, Yom HaZikaron, you're killing us, you're destroying, you're taking us. We're in, Tisha B'Av, I don't know, some people in this country feel Tisha B'Av much more on Yom HaZikaron, I feel, than some of Tisha B'Av. And then what do? Boom! Celebrations. How do you do that to us? The answer is the same. You want to celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut? You got to understand the price. Yom HaZikaron. You want to understand Purim? You got to understand Divrei Hatzomot V'Za'akatam. You have to fast. You have to cry to Baruch Hu. If all this is true, then we can now understand perhaps what the Gemara is telling us. The Gemara is saying there are two Megillah readings, but they are very different Megillah readings. One Megillah reading, one at night, symbolizes the Kriyah El Hashem, Likrot Megillah, and this is Karati El Hashem. As the pasuk he brings, Elokai Ekra V'lo Ta'aneh. The pasuk in Tehillim that he uses is, I call out to God. The first Megillah reading commemorates all the years of Jews in Galut, calling out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu for salvation, having the emunah and bitachon that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to save us. That is the Kriyah of the night. However, the Kriyah of the day is the Hodayah, is the thanks, the Shirah, the Hallel that we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is what we say on the daytime. These are two different Kriyot, two different readings, two different lanings. Now I'll ask that another thing. I said to you before that the Noda B'Yehuda thought that the night Kriyah is not Midivrei Nevi'im, which means that the Divrei Nevi'im, the prophets, told us to read the Megillah only when? On the morning. And the rabbis added at night. It's rabbinical. But I think it's more than that. This is not my idea. Nothing is my idea, by the way. Nothing I'm saying, by the way. I can't even remember who I'm repeating. My father once gave a whole share about this too, so everything I say is from my father anyway, so I don't have to say that, but I should. The Gemara asks a very famous question. Why is there no Hallel on Purim? And the Gemara gives three answers, which are basically two answers. The two answers are either we do say Hallel on Purim, or we don't say Hallel on Purim. The Gemara suggests that we don't say Hallel on Purim for two reasons. Either because it happened in Chutz La'aretz, and we don't say Hallel for miracles in Chutz La'aretz, or it's because we didn't have a very great ending to the story. We still stayed in Chutz La'aretz. When Purim was over, where did it end? Can you really say, and they all lived happily ever after?
No.
Not sure. That's what the Gemara suggests. So there's no Hallel. However, the Gemara also suggests a third answer, which is, we do say Hallel on Purim. It's called the Megillah. Kriyata zu hidulah. Reading the Megillah is the Hallel. The Gemara says, which by the way creates an afkamina. The Meiri, one of the Rishonim, says that if you're in a place without a Megillah, you say Hallel with a bracha. It's quite an extreme idea. With a bracha, the Meiri says. So we read Hallel. We read it. Hallel is the Megillah. Megillah is Hallel. Yes.
Hallel Pesach was
Well, first of all, the Gemara asked your question. The Gemara asked the question, and what does the Gemara answer? Maybe you know the answer too. The Gemara says, you're right, before we entered the land of Israel, so miracles could have been said for Chutz La'aretz. But once we entered the land of Israel, that's it, no more.
Why didn't you give the answer about the soldier, about the Megillah, the Erie's answer?
Oh, man, you're right, Shkoyach, I didn't think about that. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I never thought of using that. He said that I should get back to this soldier. If you have no Megillah, you should say Hallel. I wonder if halacha l'maisa we do it though, because the Meiri says it. Thank you. I will think about that. Thank you.
So
I really want to thank you.
So why not this year in Shushan Purim do we not say Hallel at Shabbat in Yerushalayim?
Because we read the Megillah.
Yeah.
Because we read the Megillah on Friday. Let's read the Megillah. You did that.
Not on Shabbat?
You're not doing it on Sunday.
Interesting nafkamina. I don't know. Good. I mean, you could argue with this and explain why we haven't said Megillah, but interesting angle. We should think about it. Interesting angle according to this. Why am I adding this to this discussion right now? Because according to what I'm saying, Hallel is only said when? In the daytime. Okay, that's a real exception. Hallel is always said in the daytime. So that makes sense now. The Kriya of the day, we said, is a Kriya Hallel of thanks, of praise, of Hallel. The night is not. Some people say, by the way, from that angle, that's why women can lane for men at night. Why? Because on the daytime, what's the reason that a woman can't read for a man? Because there's a chiyuv of Hallel that's in the Megillah, which a woman can't be motzi a man. It's chiyuv of Hallel. But at night, there's no chiyuv of Hallel. Then a woman can make for that reason too. But what I really gain from this is that the day Megillah includes the Hallel. There's a famous pasuk. We all know the pasuk. La'agid baboker chasdecha ve'emunatcha baleilot. In the day we say chesed. At night we talk about emunah. Why? Because the night symbolizes darkness. It symbolizes when we can't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu and chesed. So we only rely on emunah and bitachon. That is the kriya of the night. The kriya of the day is lahagid baboker chasdecha. When we see God's greatness, when we're able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu's miracles, we say Hallel, and that's the kriya of the daytime. And I'll say a little bit more than that because I think I have to finish now. One more thing I'll say. I'm just listening this week to Rabbi Weiss, and he explained. Sorry, I have 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay, so Rabbi Weiss said something very, very nice. He said, the whole idea of Purim, as we all know, is about everything is hidden. Esther. Everything, Esther. Everything is hidden. why don't we say Hallel really on Pesach, on Purim? Why? According to the opinion that reading the Megillah is Hallel. It's a lovely idea. So what? Say also Hallel. Like. So the answer is because the Hallel is hidden too. Because when you look at the story of Purim, you don't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Where's HaKadosh Baruch Hu? I don't see him. Do you see him? I don't see him. It's hidden. So the Hallel is hidden. When we say the Megillah, we read a story which is praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, parallel to the miracle that was hidden, our praise is hidden. That's the daytime Lagid Baboker Chasdecha. We have to reach a level on Purim in which we are able to see the truth of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, even when it's hidden. That is the Avodat Hashem of Purim. To be able to expose the truth when it's hidden. To see Hashem's chesed when it's hidden. That is what we're supposed to. At night of Purim, everything is dark. We remember hundreds and thousands of years when Jews were crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he was hidden from us, we couldn't find him, and we cry out, and the Megillah is a crying out of bitachon, emunah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the daytime, it turns to a chesed which we try to be able to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how he works in history, how he performs miracle in history. That is the Megillah of the daytime. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based on this construct, why say Al Hanisim?
Why say Al Nisim at night? So you should know that. Thank you. So you should read my father's article about this. My father actually quotes Gaonim, who said you don't. Prove my point. Thank you. We do, but some people think you don't. But that would prove the point. Thank you very much.
When a granddaughter was born, really, that I've been asking them the next day in the morning. No, I can find it. So I got to go to shul. I hear it twice in the morning.
You're a good Sabbath.
I don't know if I'm a good Sabbath.
Good. Is it clear other mitzvot you mentioned before? The lesser status. What is the status of Kabbalah or not? Is Mikra Megillah from the Megillah?
We mentioned it because they found a makar in the Torah.
Not in the Megillah itself. But not the Megillah itself.
But you're right. That's maybe Rabbi. The Gemara uses the Torah to look for good.